There's some new faces in the audience, so if you don't know me, I am Stephen Johnston Jr. I'm the founder and CTO of Launch Media Network. We operate a gamer community platform called Gamer Launch and a fan-focused media site called GameSkinny.com, as well as an upcoming ad tech platform to help people monetize websites. As an Atlanta native who founded a digital media company in Richmond, Virginia, I've looked longingly over the last few years at the growing gaming and tech and movie industry back home in Atlanta. Atlanta's got a unique combination of advantages, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. But it starts with top-notch educational institutions, a large city size, an experienced investment community, and there's a vibrant tech and gaming, creative film, and music scene here, topped off by the easiest airport to get in and out of, probably in the world. And so, I really believe that this cluster of benefits is sort of early in the evolution for Atlanta. And I'm excited about it. So thankfully, the inescapable draw of the business environment here in Atlanta led to our moving the company down here last year. We spent some time in Tech Village, grew out of our spot there, moved up here to Sandy Springs at the beginning of the summer. Since moving to Atlanta, we've grown our online audience to more than 3 million monthly uniques across our gaming communities and fan-focused media sites. We continue to grow. We'll add 10 people in advertising, digital media, and advertising operations in the next year. In addition, our journalism training program has trained thousands of aspiring journalists. And we're open for college interns locally and internationally, starting every 9 weeks. Our next session actually starts on Monday. So if you know anybody that's would be interested, get in touch. According to the Georgia Game Developers Association, there's now more than 113 game development companies in the state, up from 8 in 2005. The GGDA, Georgia Game Developers Association, and the Electronic Software Association announced at Siege last weekend. They've determined the total economic impact of those companies to be just over $550 million. That statistic doesn't include the gaming ecosystem, which includes companies such as ourselves, Haste, Control Freak, consultants that are based here doing various things, and a lot of things I expect to come out of our universities and related to these companies once with this critical mass that's here. The work of the Georgia Department of Economic Development, along with the healthy tax credit and the tax credit exchange, has been a key part of that growth here in Georgia. So here to speak to us about that work is Georgia Department of Economic Development's Director of Life Sciences and Technology, E. Caraway. E. has been with the Georgia Department of Economic Development since 2009, and has helped the department work and close projects which bring thousands of jobs to Georgia. Prior to joining the Department of Economic Development, E. was Vice President of Business Development with Southern Development, served as President of the Muscatine Development Corporation, and was Director of both the MCI and Sprint to the Southeast region. So please join me in welcoming E. Caraway.
We'll be here about another hour and 45 minutes. I could talk about Georgia all night long, but I do thank you for having me here tonight. Boy, I'm loud as it is, so does that sound loud to you? We are thrilled to be here. We're thrilled to be a part of this gaming industry. You look at this little old woman up here and you wonder, what in the world does she know about gaming? And I know Asante. And my son. And I came from the days of Pac-Man. And when I first started working out of college, there was a little studio that served sandwiches and had the Pac-Man in the table games, and we all went and played Pac-Man during lunch, and I had our sandwiches. So that's my first introduction to gaming. It's pretty cool, isn't it? And you had Paul. Up and down, up and down. But what we are seeing and what we have seen, you mentioned 100, GGDA has come out with, and those 113 gaming companies that are coming around, that's more than twice what we thought it was going to look like. The investment in jobs and the ancillary jobs that come off of that. But what we also are seeing and continue to see in that growth is the impact that the gaming industry has on so many other companies around, and how those pieces, Todd just mentioned what he's doing with Mercedes and had done with some of those kind of things there. That's a gaming piece. That's a part of that. All of those, they're tapping into a number of things. Companies are interested in that, and part of it is because the audience they're trying to attract. But if you look at what Georgia, you mentioned logistics, we Area Development, which is a magazine that looks at what site selection consultants and people who place businesses look at. For the 4th year in a row, Georgia has been named the #1 state in which to do business. Nobody ever has had it for 4 years in a row. Now there's another site selection magazine, which we've had 3 years in a row, and we are hoping in the next month to hear that we have 4 on that also. And that looks at a number of factors. And part of those factors are, what's the cost of doing business? What's your workforce like? And Georgia has been ranked year over year over year with the #1 workforce. And what comes into that workforce is, above all else, is our work ethic. I did not, and some of you heard this, I didn't grow up in Georgia. Moved to Georgia, and I moved out of Georgia, and I moved back. So I'm a Georgian by choice. I'm a Tennessee volunteer, though, for those of you who a few weeks ago saw that. That's called heart attack. It wasn't cold, it's just a matter of education. But I do enjoy competitiveness. And that's part of what makes us good at what we do. Georgia's one of the few states that has had a AAA bond rating for 30 years in a row. Everybody goes, boy, that sounds boring. But what that means is the availability of cash, the availability to do business in a smart way. Companies tell us over and over and over again the reason they like to be in Georgia. One of them is we take care of ourselves. You know, we are partners. It's #1, relationships. And our commissioner will tell you, our commissioner that announced today that he's going to be the new Attorney General, but our whole department will tell you, every single time when companies locate here, or companies we work with, it's about that relationship. I heard tonight, and I've heard it before, but the relationship that Asante has built with the gaming community allows us to know what it is that you need to succeed. But relationships and getting to know you and understanding your business and partnering with you to succeed. We don't do, I'm not going to criticize another state, but we don't do what a lot of states do. And we are not in a position to write you a check to get you here, because somebody else someday might have a bigger check. We will figure out a way to help make you successful, partner with you to be successful, because as you're successful, then we go out and market and say, look, these guys are successful. And here's why they're telling us they're successful, and we'll keep doing those things over and over and over again, creating those jobs. A few things, you know, the quality of life here is tremendous. Harvard Business Review recently had an article that said something's happening in Georgia. And it was a discussion about what's going on with information technology. And I say that as IT, all jobs, software development, all of those jobs that are a piece of that. And what's happening not only at the technical college level, at Georgia Tech level, at Georgia State and University, at Kennesaw State, at all of those that are a piece of that, but it's what's happening with our education system as a whole. I was telling Asante today, my cousin reached out to me that lives west on 20, but not all the way into Alabama. And her daughter had come home from school, 2nd grade. She said, what'd you learn today? And of course, the daughter is going to tell her everything she knows. So she starts talking about standards. And then she named this string of letters and numbers. And her mom looks at her and goes, what's that mean? And my cousin grew up in Tennessee, like I did. So, you know, what does that mean? And she said, it means I can code. 2nd grade. But we have in most schools now in the state of Georgia, coding can be taken as a second language. And that's leading up to that. Now, I learned Fortran, COBOL, you know, old woman stuff, old man stuff if you're old like I am. But it is going to be, it is becoming a piece of our life, and we're excited about it, excited about what it can do. But what does that say about Georgia, and what does that say about what you do? It says that we're interested in what you do. We know the value. We appreciate the value. We are here to partner with you for that success, long term, whatever it may be. I mean, we have been ranked, CBRE said that we are top 10 in the tech talent market and moving up rapidly. They did not consider all of what's happening with the recent announcement of the software development companies coming in, what Honeywell's now doing, what GE is now doing in those software development programs. Each of those help you as they specialize those programs with the technical colleges and with our university systems, and even coming down into the elementary school. Honeywell has, and you can, I don't remember the dates, but Honeywell is going into third grade systems and working with, in all of the 29 counties that are considered the metro Atlanta area. And they do a little game to get those kids interested in information technology and understanding how it works. I don't remember how all the details went. I was just blown away that these third graders were so excited about it, you know, and doing this. So those companies are doing things with others and helping us. We've also, you know, we are #1 workforce development. And that means we can set up for you, if you're looking for help in a program and learning, if one does not exist, then if we've got a large enough class size, our community colleges, our technical colleges, our Georgia Tech, Georgia State, there may be something there that's a piece of that. And then we've got some training coming on that is by private investors and some schools around for doing that very thing. So that's very exciting. It's all a piece of why it's working in Georgia. And it obviously is that you're here. And that thank you for having me and letting us be part of partnerships with you. Someone asked me tonight if the credit had changed. Not to my knowledge. We're aware of these things. Our organization works at the behest of the governor and the legislature. So we stay at arm's length on those things that are legislative. There are associations that do some of those kind of things. But it's our job to make sure they're aware of the positive things that are going on. As you can imagine, just like you, we look at jobs and investment and a return on investment, because we're spending the tax dollars that you pay as a piece of doing those kind of things. So we are very lean and very mean. Asante is meaner than I am. But we're very lean, we're very strong, we work very hard in what we do, but we also do it very thoughtfully and put resources where we need to put resources and partner with folks to do that. And we thank you for being partners with us, and we want to be stronger partners with you. And we are here to tell you we're grateful. We're grateful for what you are doing with Launch Media. We're grateful for all of the companies that are and individuals that are represented here tonight. We're here to help you. Our phones are, well, Asante's may not be 24 hours, but mine is. You can reach out to us at any time. I cannot tell you how grateful we are to have someone like Asante Bradford that heads this group up. I know the marketing side, I know the budget side, the investment side. I've worked with large companies and small companies for the years. But what I don't know, somebody said, well, you know about digital gaming. I said, digital media. I said, I know Asante. And it's his job to keep me in line. And he does very good at that. But we're proud of you too, and we thank you for what you do. Guys, I'm here. I appreciate the opportunity. Did I tap everything you wanted me to? Did I get it all?
I think you nailed it.
Okay, we have a huge community of folks who work together. And you're part of those communities, but there are other communities also that appreciate what you do. And if we can make those connections and build those bridges, we're here to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Our next speaker is Todd Hi-Rez. He's co-founder and COO of Hi-Rez in Alpharetta. They're the creators of the phenomenally successful Smite, a MOBA available on Xbox One, PS4, PC, pretty much everything you should be playing on, and the upcoming game Paladins, as well as other projects. Smite's currently in the middle of their fall split, where teams are invited to compete here in Atlanta face-to-face. This event culminates in the Smite Super Regional, ultimately qualifiers for the Smite World Championships at the Cobb Energy Center in January. When considering local ecosystem and industry intersections, a tour of Hi-Rez really lets you see this embodied. The Hi-Rez offices in Alpharetta are part movie set, part broadcast studio, part esport arena, and 100% game studio. It's a blend of broadcast, arena, and gaming. It seems so right for Atlanta at this particular point. So to talk more about esports at Hi-Rez, here's Todd.
So thanks for that introduction. I've met most of you in the room. As Stephen said, my name is Todd. I've been with Hi-Rez since the beginning. So in 2005, as was mentioned, there were about 8 game studios, and we were one of them. We started with 4 people, and we're about 20 people by the end of the year. We're now 275 people. And next week, we'll work with Asante and friends to announce a new expansion and opening up 75 additional jobs over the next 12 months. So growth is good in Georgia with gaming. I want to talk a little bit about the power of games and end with esports. Touching on a few things, education, economic development, and then just community, basically. So education is kind of top of my mind because there's certainly some representatives here that I was talking to from local institutions. I had the pleasure to meet with the governor earlier today and understand some of his initiatives around education, and he's really been a leader regarding computer science, as was mentioned, which certainly is important for feeding our industry. I mean, that's just huge that students can take programming as a secondary language and very relevant. So education, gaming is basically a gateway for many people into technology, and everyone that works in gaming should be very proud of that. My dad and IBM for 30 years, brought home an IBM PC when I was in 7th grade, and I devoured that. I learned to program, and I knew in my heart that one day I would make computer games. Took 30 years after I graduated to get back to that. But it lit that technology fire for me. If you talk to Mark Zuckerberg and you ask him what got you into technology, it was games. If you ask Elon Musk of Tesla, Solar City, what got you into technology, it was games. So for many people, games is what lights that fire and ultimately drives technology, which humanity, I believe, tends to benefit from. Our studio was also founded kind of by that vision. So Hi-Rez Gorin, our CEO, when he was in college, he and his brother were writing games for the original 2600 computer. And they had a few published. They were about to have their first game published for the 2600 console, a game called Baseball. But it was 1983. If you know your video game history, that's the year the industry took a bit of a dive. And so he and his brother had to turn to other fields and ended up starting a company that became Radiant Systems, was eventually sold to NCR after going public, started another company, and basically that track record of serial entrepreneurship has created over 1,500 jobs here in the Georgia Alpharetta area. Instead of retiring, he decided to go back to his passion, and after selling the second company, talked to me about starting Hi-Rez Studios. So gaming, education, very well linked, and it's great to see the participation of universities here, making sure their students can land at studios like Hi-Rez. As far as economic development of gaming, the gaming industry in Georgia has grown. The $500 million of statewide impact is very significant. As it relates to esports, maybe half the group I would hazard. Who's familiar with esports? Who knows what that term means? Okay, and who's watched an esport event online? and who's attended one in person? All right, I'll see you all in January. So, with a special Asante discount. So, you know, we make competitive games that you play cooperatively and competitive against other people. And the idea of esports is taking that to another level, where games are not only played competitively, but they're enjoyed as a spectator event, right? And as many of you may know, you know, at this point, this is a big deal. This is over 100 million people monthly that are watching on the Twitch TV platform alone. Because of that success, and Amazon purchased Twitch for close to $1 billion, YouTube gaming is now getting into the space, Facebook Live is now in the space, and Twitter is kind of dipping their toe in the space. All of them looking at live streaming gaming. So it's definitely big business, and it also intersects, as was mentioned, with a lot of the skill sets that we see locally, because it combines online games, and we're pretty well represented even outside of Hi-Rez, with Xavier, with Blue Mammoth, with Tripwire, games that are played online. And it combines that with broadcast talent, which, you know, due to Turner, Cartoon Network, others, we have great infrastructure and talent. So we certainly have tried to capitalize on that, and it does create this interesting new media where you're creating a game, but you're also running tournaments and also broadcasting it to directly reach your audience. And how many people are familiar with E-League in town? Okay, about half. So short story is Turner, you know, recognizing that their traditional TV audience may be going to other platforms and looking to reach millennials, has partnered with some games and is running their own tournaments and actually broadcasting that online, Twitch, and also on TBS every Friday night while they have a season. So it's great to see this convergence, and I really think that Atlanta is positioned well to be the leader of esports within the United States. I mean, already there's Hi-Rez, there's Turner, and E-League. We are getting this summer DreamHack, which is a major event. They will be coming to Atlanta in July. Our friends at Blue Mammoth will be doing a tournament for their game, Brawlhalla, and a few other ones that that haven't been publicly announced. But there's going to be a lot of activity over the next year in esports, and I think it has the potential to be a tremendous economic driver and job creator for Georgia. So that is that. I guess the final point I wanted to touch on is just community, because as we put a foot into esports, we've had a pretty unique view on all the positive fringe benefits that come from esports besides the economic and the marketing ones. So the most important entity in the esports ecosystem is actually the player. So here you have young men and women that really, they just have a goal of wanting to be the best at the world at their passion. You know, one of the long-term players within the Smite scene, a guy by the name of Ally, kind of out of nowhere was struck with stage 4 cancer in his digestive system, which is very hard to recover from. The community, along with Hi-Rez, did a number of fundraising events through virtual items, through streaming, through embarrassing ourselves on Twitch, raised, because he was in a situation where he actually didn't have insurance. We raised over $100,000 to help Allied, and I got to see him at TwitchCon along with Josh, and he's in a very much better place. So anyway, that sort of community, again, these are some of the values associated with gaming that sometimes you don't hear talked about, and it's cool to be a part of that kind of community and industry. So those were all of my off-the-cuff keynote remarks, but I'll be around at the event if people want to ask any questions. But thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you all for coming. It's been great hearing Todd's remarks and DJ's remarks, and having you all here to talk to. Just in general, we're here in Atlanta intentionally, because as a media company. And we are keenly interested in covering, everything related to gaming, related industries, education, everything that's feeding into it and coming out of it. So if you're involved in it, know someone who is, please send them our way. We'd love to, to do our thing with that information, with those relationships.